Ambassador Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the USV Olive Branch and watched the massive station grow larger. Nexus Prime hung in space like a jewel. Home to the Galactic Council, 47 alien species lived and worked there, ruling thousands of star systems. She had trained 5 years for this moment. Earth's future depended on what happened in the next few days. Ambassador were cleared for docking, Captain Torres said behind her. They're sending an escort, Sarah nodded. Her team of 12 diplomats, scientists, and security personnel gathered their materials. They wore formal Earth uniforms, dark blue with silver trim. She wanted the Council to see humans as professional and peaceful. Earth had discovered faster than light travel only 3 years ago. Since then, they had met dozens of alien species. All of them answered to the Council. The Council chamber was enormous. Sarah's team looked tiny, walking across the polished floor. Seats rose in circles above them, filled with alien beings of every shape and size. Some had scales, others had fur, some breathed different gases and sat in special containers. All of them watched the humans with various expressions that Sarah couldn't fully read. At the highest point sat the Vra Emperor, a massive creature covered in black armor like skin. His fore gleamed as he looked down at Sarah. Beside him floated the hive mind collective, thousands of small insect-like beings that moved as one, speaking with a unified voice. Humans of Earth. The Imperator's voice boomed. You have been summoned to hear the Council's judgment on your species. Sarah felt her spine straighten. With respect, Emperor, we came to negotiate Earth's entry as an independent member of the galactic community. Laughter rippled through the chamber, not friendly laughter. The hivemind's voice buzzed. Independence. You discovered star travel 3 of your years ago. We have maintained galactic order for 20,000 years. You are children. Sarah had prepared for this. Children who mastered quantum entanglement, communication, artificial intelligence, and genetic enhancement. We're different from the species you're used to, but we're not primitive. The Emperor leaned forward. You are exactly like every other species that comes before us, full of pride and ignorance. You will accept client race status. You will follow our laws. You will limit your expansion to 3 star systems. You will provide resources and troops. When the Council demands, these terms are not negotiable, then we respectfully decline. Sarah said clearly. Earth will not become a client race. We seek partnership, not subjugation. The chamber erupted in angry sounds. The Imperator slammed a massive appendage on his platform. You dare refuse the Council that has brought peace to this entire sector. Sarah activated her tablet. I've reviewed the historical records you provided. In the last 1,000 years, 23 species reached space travel capability in this sector. Only 19 exist today. I'd like to know what happened to the other 4. Silence fell across the chamber. The hive minds buzzing took on a sharp edge. They were incompatible with galactic civilization. Incompatible, Sarah pressed. Or did they refuse to submit and you erase them? The Emperor rose to his full height, towering even in the holographic display. You overstep, human. The Council does what is necessary to maintain order. Species that threaten stability are dealt with. That is our burden and our duty. Sarah felt cold understanding wash over her. You're admitting to genocide. We prefer The term pruning, the hive mind said. Garden must be tended, dangerous growths must be removed before they choke out everything else. Sarah's security chief, Commander Lau, whispered urgently in her ear, Ambassador, we need to leave now. But Sarah had one more question. And what makes a species dangerous in your eyes? The Imperator smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Warriors, conquerors, species with military capability that exceeds their wisdom. Species like yours, human, your history is written in blood. Your planet has known 200 major wars in the last century. Alone, you created weapons that could destroy your entire world. You are exactly the kind of growth that must be pruned. Sarah's fingers moved quickly on her tablet, starting an encrypted transmission back to Earth. You're making a mistake. No, Ambassador Chen. You made the mistake when you refused our generous offer. The Emperor gestured, and doors sealed around the chamber. Armed guards, massive creatures with energy weapons, surrounded Sarah's team. You are charged with espionage, refusing lawful council authority, and crimes against galactic order. You and your entire team are sentenced to execution. The sentence will be carried out immediately and broadcast to all council worlds, including Earth. You're going to execute diplomats. Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. We came in peace, and you will die as an example. The hive mind buzzed, so that Earth understands its place. Submit or be erased. These are the only choices. Sarah's transmission completed. A tiny light on her tablet blinked green. Everything she had recorded, every admission, every threat was now traveling to Earth at faster than light speeds. She looked at her team. Commander Liu stood ready to fight, but Sarah shook her head. 12 people couldn't fight an entire station. Stand down, she ordered quietly, then louder to the council. You're making the biggest mistake in your 20,000-year history. They were taken to public square on Nexus Prime. Millions of aliens watched, in person or through broadcasts. Sarah and her team stood on a platform. Hands-bound, the Imperator read their crimes to the assembled masses. Sarah barely heard it. She was thinking about Earth, about her daughter, about humanity. The executioner approached with an energy blade. Sarah looked directly into the closest camera. To anyone watching on Earth, she said clearly, don't mourn us. They think executing us will make you afraid. They don't understand. They killed one, but they've made an enemy of all. They think we're dangerous now. They're coming. Blade flashed. The transmission cut out. Across the galaxy, on a small blue planet, billions of humans watch their ambassador die. They watch the council laugh. They watch the other alien species cheer or sit in silent approval. They watched and they remembered. In a bunker deep beneath Geneva fleet, Admiral Marcus Kane watched the execution with cold eyes. He had known Sarah Chen for 15 years. She was one of the finest people he'd ever met. Now she was gone, murdered for the crime of standing up for her species. Kane reached for the red phone on his desk. Around the world, similar calls were being made. Earth's governments were convening. The military was mobilizing. In secret facilities hidden in the ore cloud, lights began turning on in massive shipyards that had been running dark for decades. The council had made their choice. Now Earth would make theirs. Admiral Kane looked at the frozen image on his screen. Sarah Chen's defiant face in her last moment. He whispered to the empty room. There Coming, Sarah, I promise you they're all coming. The message reached Earth 6 hours after the execution. It came through quantum entanglement channels, impossible to intercept or block. Sarah Chen's final transmission contained everything. Recordings of the council admitting to genocide, evidence of 23 extinct civilizations, and the full video of what happened to Earth's diplomatic team. Admiral Marcus Ka stood in the emergency command center beneath Geneva. Around him, holographic displays showed leaders from every major nation on Earth. The Secretary General of the United Earth Government, President Jennifer Walsh, looked like she had aged 10 years in the last hour. Play it again, said Premier Lee of the Asian Coalition. His voice was steady, but his hands shook. Kane didn't want to watch it again, but he understood. The world needed to see. He nodded to his communications officer. The video played. On every screen, Sarah Chen standing tall, her final words, the blade falling, the council's laughter. President Walsh spoke first. Fleet Admiral Kine, you said we had options. Tell us. Kane had been preparing for this conversation his entire career. He pulled up classified files, 30 years of secret development programs. Since the Cold War ended, every nation has wondered what would happen if we met hostile aliens. We prepared, we built things, we hid things. Now it's time to use them. The holographic displays change, showing massive structures floating in the darkness beyond Pluto. Ships, hundreds of them. They looked nothing like the Olive Branch, which had been designed to look peaceful and friendly. These ships looked like what? They were weapons, the Ghost Fleet. Kane said quietly, 500 capital ships, 2,000 support vessels, 3,000 autonomous attack drones, built in secret over 3 decades, using resources from asteroid mining, powered by fusion reactors that can run for 50 years without refueling, armed with weapons the Council banned 10,000 years ago. Chancellor Schmidt of the European Federation leaned forward. Banned weapons, kinetic kill vehicles, relativistic missiles, quantum torpedoes, AI-guided warfare, chemical and biological agents, nuclear weapons. In massive quantities, the Council banned them because they're too effective, too destructive. They prefer energy weapons and projectiles that follow their rules of war. Kane's expression hardened. We don't follow their rules. The room fell silent. President Okonkwo of the African Union spoke carefully. You're talking about total war. I'm talking about survival. Kane corrected. Sarah's transmission included intelligence we couldn't have gotten any other way. The Council sees us as a threat because we are a threat. We are warriors. Our entire history is warfare. We've developed technology at a pace that terrifies them. If we submit now, they'll control us for a few generations, then they'll erase us. If we run, they'll hunt us. The only option is to hit them so hard they never forget. What happens when you touch Earth? How many casualties are we talking about? Asked Prime Minister Tanaka of the Pacific Alliance. Kane pulled up tactical projections. If we strike first, using maximum surprise and overwhelming force, weaken their military capability in the first wave. Target their shipyards, command centers, and military installations. Avoid civilian populations. The Council has 47 member species, but most are client races who were forced to join. Intelligence suggests many would rebel if we break the Council's power. Secretary General. Walsh looked at each leader's hologram. This is the decision that defines humanity's future. Vote now, do we submit to the council, or do we go to war? One by one the votes came in. Kane watched the tally climb. It was the first time in human history that every major government agreed on anything. The final vote was unanimous. Walsh turned back to Kane. Fleet Admiral, you have authorization to deploy the Ghost Fleet. Rules of engagement. Kane had already prepared the orders. Protocol reckoning, first strike. Targeting military and government facilities only. Total dismantlement of the Council's ability to make war. Capture of Council leadership for trial. We're not genocidal like them. We're showing the galaxy there's a difference between justice and murder. When do we launch? Premier Lee asked. The fleet has been on standby for 6 hours, fueled and ready. Crews have been training for this scenario for years. We can launch in 3 hours. Kane paused. I'm going with them. This is personal now. Walsh nodded. Slowly, do you think we can win? The Council has ruled for 20,000 years, Kane said. They're comfortable fat on their power. They think warfare is about honor and following rules. They execute diplomats as public theater. They don't understand what humanity is capable of. When you back us into a corner, he looked directly at the Secretary General. Yes, we'll win. The question is what we do after. First, we make sure there is an after. Walsh said. She stood, and every leader followed. Admiral Kane, you are authorized to engage. Show them what happens when you kill our people. Kane saluted. The connection ended. He turned to his staff. All hands, this is Fleet Admiral Kane. Execute launch sequence. Notify all Ghost Fleet commanders we're going to war. 2 hours later, Kane stood on the bridge of the UESV Retribution, the flagship of the Ghost Fleet. It was the largest warship humanity had ever built, a kilometer long, bristling with weapons. Around it, 500 other ships powered up their drives. The crews were the best Earth had. Veterans, volunteers, people who wanted to look the Council in the eye and ask, why? All ships report ready, Admiral. His exo said. Kane sat in the command chair. Behind him stood a photo of Sarah Chen, placed there as a reminder of why they were doing this. Helm set course for Nexus Prime. Maximum speed. Communications. Send a message to the Council on all frequencies. Message. Ready, sir. Kane thought about what to say. He thought about Sarah, about the 12 people who died with her, about the 23 civilizations the Council had erased, about his grandchildren who deserved to grow up free. Message follows. Kane said to the Galactic Council, you executed our ambassador. You threatened our world. You laughed while you murdered peace itself. You called us dangerous, and you were right. We are dangerous, but we're not like you. We don't murder diplomats. We don't commit genocide. We don't rule through fear. We're coming for you not to conquer, but to dismantle. We're going to take apart your military, your government, and your power piece by piece. And when we're done, every species in the galaxy will know what happens when you execute peace. You killed one. We're coming for all. Signed, Fleet Admiral Marcus Kine, United Earth Space Force. Message sent. Admiral, all ships jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark. 500 warships vanished from Earth space, leaving only the faint radiation signature of their jump drives. They reappeared at the edge of Council space, moving faster than anything the Council had ever seen. Ghost Fleet was sailing to war, and the galaxy would never be the same. On Earth, Secretary General Walsh addressed the planet, people of Earth today. The Galactic Council executed our ambassador and her team for the crime of standing up for humanity. Today we go to war not for conquest, not for revenge, but to ensure that no one ever makes the mistake of thinking humans are weak. Stand together, be strong, and trust that our people will return victorious. Across Earth, billions of people watched the Ghost Fleet disappear into the stars. Some prayed, some cried, some sharpened their resolve. All of them waited, united as never before, to see what humanity could do when pushed too far. The Council was about to find out. The Ghost Fleet traveled through the void between stars, silent and deadly. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the tactical display. 500 capital ships moved in perfect formation, a wall of humanity's finest engineering. They had been in jump space for 3 days, crossing distances that should have taken months. In normal space, Admiral, we're approaching the Council border, his exo. Commander Park reported, sensors detect patrol vessels ahead. Kane studied the display. 6 Council patrol ships, old models designed more for customs checks than combat. They probably hadn't seen real action in centuries. How long until they detect us? 30 seconds at our current speed. They're already broadcasting challenge codes. Kane considered his options. The smart move was to avoid contact, slipped past unnoticed, but that wasn't the message he wanted to send. Maintain course, weapons free, target their engines and communication systems. I want at least one ship intact enough to send a message. Aye, sir. Weapons locked. The patrol ships finally saw them. Their broadcast changed from routine challenges to panicked warnings. They tried to scatter, but they were too slow. The Retribution's AI targeting systems tracked all 6 vessels simultaneously. Railgun rounds accelerated to a fraction of light speed, crossed the distance in milliseconds. 5 ships exploded as kinetic rounds tore through their hulls. The 6th ship lost its engines and communications array, but remained mostly intact. The entire engagement lasted 4.7 seconds. Ceasefire. Kane ordered scan for survivors. Multiple life signs on the surviving vessel. Admiral, they're venting atmosphere from 3 compartments, but the ship isn't critical. Good. Broadcast this message to them. Tell the Council that Earth is coming. Tell them to prepare. Kane turned to his navigation officer. Plot a course directly through Council space. No more avoiding patrols. I want them to see us coming. Commander Park looked concerned. Sir, that will give them time to prepare defenses. That's the point. Kane said, Sarah died trying to make peace. We're going to make war, and we're going to do it in broad daylight. No sneak attacks, no ambushes. We're going to walk through their front door and dare them to stop us. The Ghost Fleet jumped again, appearing deep inside Council territory. Alarms screamed across a dozen worlds. Council Emergency Defense Network activated for the first time in 3,000 years. Ships scrambled from orbital stations. Planetary shields powered up. The Council military spread across hundreds of systems, began mobilizing. In the Council chamber on Nexus Prime, chaos reigned. The Vrax Emperor bellowed orders while the hive mind coordinated fleet movements. A massive holographic display showed the Ghost Fleet position And trajectory, how did they build 500 capital ships in 3 years? A delegate from the Tarvac species demanded. It's impossible. They didn't build them in 3 years, a military analyst explained. Energy signatures suggest these ships are decades old. They've been hiding them planning this. The Emperor slammed his appendage down. It doesn't matter when they built them. What matters is stopping them. How many ships can we mass against them? 1,500 capital ships. Within a week, Emperor, 3,000 if we pull defenders from outer territories. Do it, mass everything at the VAR system. We'll crush them there on my home world. Let humanity see what happens when they challenge true power. But Admiral Kane had no intention of going where the Council wanted. Navigation, adjust course, new target. The HiveMind home cluster, there. Coordinating the Council's response, cut off the head. The Ghost Fleet changed direction, jumping past the mass Council force gathering at Ra. For 3 days they played a deadly game of cat and mouse, appearing in one system and jumping away before the Council fleet could respond. Each time they appeared, they destroyed military installations, shipyards and supply depots. Each time they broadcast the same message. This is for Sarah Chen. Commander Park studied the tactical reports. Admiral, we've destroyed 63 military facilities without a single casualty on our side. Their response time is terrible. They're not used to fighting, Kane explained. Look at their tactics. They mass their ships in big formations, broadcast challenges, wait for responses. They've turned warfare into a ritual. They forgot it's supposed to be about winning, and we're not playing by their rules. Exactly. We studied every war humanity ever fought. We learned from our mistakes. We built AI that can coordinate attacks across multiple light years simultaneously. We use weapons they ban because they're too effective. They spent 20,000 years making war civilized. We're showing them what univilized war looks like. The Ghost Fleet appeared at the edge of the HiveMind's home cluster, a system of 12 planets connected by massive organic structures. The HiveMind itself was distributed across all 12 worlds. Billions of individual organisms thinking as one. It was the Council's strategist, their military genius. Incoming transmission from the HiveMind. The communications officer reported. Put it through. The HiveMind's voice filled the bridge, thousands of voices speaking in perfect unity. Admiral Kine, we offer terms. Cease your aggression. We will grant Earth independent status, full membership rights, reparations for Ambassador Chen's death. Kane almost laughed. You killed her 4 days ago. Now you want to negotiate. We underestimated humanity. We acknowledge our error. There is no need for further bloodshed. You're right about one thing. You did underestimate us. Kane gestured to his weapons officer. But there's every need for further bloodshed. You murdered diplomats. You committed genocide. You threatened Earth. Terms are for equals. You're not our equals anymore. Then you leave us no choice but to defend ourselves. Finally, Kane said in honest response. The HiveMind cluster's defenses activated. Thousands of defense platforms, hundreds of ships, energy shields that could withstand star-level bombardment. It was the most heavily defended location in Council space. Kane studied the defenses with a predator's eye. Here's the thing about AI warfare, he said to his crew. You don't need to be stronger than the enemy. You need to be smarter. Communications. Release the Swarm from the Ghost Fleet carriers. 3,000 autonomous attack drones launched. Each one was smaller than a fighter, guided by quantum-entangled AI that could make decisions faster than any organic mind. They scattered in seemingly random patterns. The hive minds' defenses tracked them. Energy weapons firing, hundreds of drones died, but for every drone destroyed, 10 more slipped through. They found weak points, gaps in the shields. Moments when platforms reloaded, they shared information instantly, learning and adapting. Swarm is at 60%. Penetration, Park reported. Loss is acceptable. Kane watched the tactical display like a chess master watching his pieces move. All ships prepare kinetic bombardment. Target coordinates uploading now. Fire when the swarm breaches. The drones reached critical facilities, power generators, shield emitters, command centers. They detonated simultaneously for 3 seconds. Gaps appeared in the hive minds. Defenses, fire, Kane said quietly. Ghost Fleet fired as one, not energy. Weapons that the shields could absorb. Kinetic rounds, chunks of metal, accelerated to relativistic speeds, carrying the energy of small nuclear bombs in simple mass and velocity. They punched through the weakened shields. Like paper, 12 planets shook as military installations vaporized. The organic structures connecting them burned. The hiveman's voice on the channel became chaotic, multiple voices speaking at once. Unity breaking down. Cease fire. Kane ordered. That's enough. The bombardment stopped. The hivemind's home cluster still existed, but its military capability was gone. More importantly, something else was gone too. Kane could hear it in the chaotic transmissions. The hivemind's perfect unity was broken. Fear had entered its collective consciousness, broadcast to all council worlds. Kane said, "This is Admiral Kane of Earth. The hivemind's defenses have fallen. Your greatest strategist couldn't stop us. We're coming to Nexus Prime next, to the Vrax Emperor and all council leadership. Prepare to answer for your crimes." He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Plot course for Vra. The Imperator wants to make his stand on his home world. Let's give him what he wants. As the Ghost Fleet jumped away, the council finally understood what they faced. This wasn't a war of conquest or territory. This was extermination of everything the council represented, and humanity was very, very good at war. On Nexus Prime, the Emperor watched the reports in growing horror. The human fleet was unstoppable, not because they were stronger, but because they fought like nothing the council had ever seen. Unpredictable, ruthless, efficient. For the first time in his 300-year life, the Vra Imperator felt fear. The Vra home world burned, not with fire or nuclear weapons. Admiral Kane had been specific in his orders: no civilian casualties, no collateral damage, but every military installation, every government facility, every symbol of council power on Vrax was being systematically erased from existence. The Ghost Fleet hung in orbit like a sword over the planet. Precision strikes demolished the Emperor's palace complex, the military academy that had trained generals for 5,000 years, the orbital shipyards that had built council warships for longer than human civilization had existed. 12 minutes after the first shot, the planet's defensive capability was zero. Ground forces are surrendering across the planet. Commander Park reported. Bra. Military command, is requesting terms. Tell them to lay down weapons and await. Further instruction, Kane said. Where's the Imperator? Bunker complex beneath the palace, heavily shielded. He's still alive, Kane nodded. Deploy assault teams. I want him alive. While Earth's special forces penetrated the bunker, Kane turned his attention to the broader situation. The tactical display showed Council forces scattered across 100 systems trying to regroup, but they were too late. The Ghost Fleet had already broken the Council's spine. Admiral were receiving surrender requests from 15 Council species, the communications officer said there, claiming they were forced into Council membership. Kane wasn't surprised. Sarah's intelligence had predicted this. Accept surrenders from any species that can prove they were client races. Put them in contact with our diplomatic corps. The ones who joined willingly can wait, sir. The Tarvak Confederacy is asking for negotiations. They want to switch sides. Tell them we're not taking sides. We're taking down the Council. After that, every species can govern themselves. An alert chimed. Admiral, assault team has breached the bunker. The Emperor is in custody. Bring him to the Retribution. I want to look him in the eye. 20 minutes later, the Vra Emperor was escorted onto the bridge in restraints. He was massive, easily 3 m tall, but he looked smaller, somehow diminished. His four darted around, seeing the human crew working efficiently, seeing the tactical display showing his home world occupied. Kane stood from his command chair and walked over. He had to look up to meet the Imperator's gaze. Do you know why you lost? The Imperator's voice was Horsaro. You had superior numbers, better weapons. You cheated. No, Kane said quietly. We lost people we loved, and we didn't forget. You killed Sarah Chen and thought it would make us afraid. You don't understand humans very well. What do you want? Tribute? Territory? We can negotiate. We want you to stand trial for genocide. Kane interrupted. You admitted to erasing 23 civilizations. That's not something you negotiate away. I am the Imperator. I am. You're a war criminal, Kane said flatly. Take him to the brig. Standard detention protocols. As guards led the Emperor away, Park approached with new reports. Sir, we're getting interesting intelligence from captured Council databases. Dozens of species have been waiting for someone to challenge Council authority. Some are already in open rebellion. Kane studied the data across Council space. Client races were rising up. Some attacked their Council overseers. Others simply declared independence. The Council's 20,000 grip on power was dissolving in days. What's the status of the Council? Military fragmenting. Some species are pulling their ships back to defend home worlds. Others are trying to mass for a counterattack. The Hivemans' coordination network is still broken, so they're not working together effectively. Good. That makes our job easier. Communications broadcast to all remaining Council military forces. Channel open, sir. Kane's words were transmitted across the galaxy. This is Fleet Admiral Kine of Earth. The VR Imperator is in custody. The Hivemans' military capability is destroyed. 60% of Council military infrastructure has been eliminated. To all Council forces still fighting, you're not fighting for peace or order. You're fighting for leaders who commit genocide when species won't submit. Stand down. Let this end. Some took the offer, others didn't. For the next week, the Ghost Fleet methodically dismantled what remained of council. Military power they didn't seek out. Battles, but they didn't avoid them. Either, when council forces engaged, they were destroyed with clinical efficiency. The battle for the Nexus Prime system was the last major engagement. 300 council warships from a dozen species made their stand around the station that had been the council's heart for thousands of years. They had the numbers, the position, and the desperation of those with nothing left to lose. Kane surveyed the enemy formation. They're fighting smart this time. Good defensive positioning. Overlapping fields of fire. They learned from watching us we could bypass them. Park suggested, hit other targets. No. This ends here. They want a final battle. Will give them one. Kane opened a channel to the enemy fleet. Council forces, this is your last chance to surrender. We don't want to kill you. Stand down. The reply came from a Tarvex. Commander, you've destroyed our civilization. You've imprisoned our leaders. What do we have left to lose? Kane understood the sentiment, but he also knew the truth. Your civilization destroyed itself when it started committing genocide. We're just finishing what you started. Last chance. Silence. Then the council ships opened fire. The Ghost Fleet didn't fight like the council expected. Instead of meeting the enemy formation head-on, they split into smaller groups using their superior speed and coordination. They appeared behind the enemy, above them, below them. They used the systems planets for cover, bouncing railgun rounds off gravity wells to hit from impossible angles. The AI coordination that humanity had perfected showed its true power. Every ship knew what every other ship was doing. They moved like a school of fish, like a flock of birds. Individual units acting as one organism. The council forces, even fighting desperately, couldn't match it. 20 minutes into the battle, half the council forces were disabled or destroyed. The rest tried to retreat. Let them go, Kane ordered. We've made our point. The Ghost Fleet held position while surviving council ships fled. Nexus Prime Station hung in space, its shields down, its weapons silent. Kane had no interest in destroying it. Too much history lived there. Boarding teams secure the station. Arrest all council leadership you find. Anyone else, offer them transport home if they wanted. Earth's Marines swept through Nexus Prime, meeting little resistance. The station's diverse population, shocked by the sudden turn of events, mostly stayed in their quarters. Some celebrated, others mourned, none fought back. In the council chamber where Sarah Chen had been sentenced to death, Kane found the remaining council leaders. Some had fled, most stayed, whether from duty or shock. They looked at the human admiral with expressions ranging from fear to resignation. The hive mind, still disunited and confused, spoke first. You've won, Admiral. What happens now? Kane looked around the chamber, thinking of Sarah standing in the same spot. Now, you answer for what you've done. We're establishing tribunals. You'll be charged with genocide, crimes against sapient species, and murder of diplomats. You'll have fair trials, which is more than you gave your victims. And if we're found guilty, a council delegate asked, then you'll be punished according to the law, not executed. We're not like you, but you'll never hold power again. A Vrax delegate, one who had laughed during Sarah's execution, spoke up. You speak of law, but you've destroyed our military, occupied our worlds, imprisoned our leaders. How is that lawful? Kane walked to where Sarah had Stood, you declared us criminals, and executed us, we declared you war. Criminals and defeated you. Difference is we're giving you trials. Instead of executions, we're building courts instead of mass graves. We're offering your client races freedom instead of continued servitude. He looked directly at the delegate. You called us dangerous. You were right, but dangerous doesn't mean evil. It means capable. We're capable of terrible things, but we choose to be better. What about our people, our worlds? Another delegate asked. Your people will be fine. We're not occupying anyone once. Your military is disbanded and war crimes trials are complete. Every species can govern themselves, build whatever civilization you want. Just don't threaten others and don't commit genocide. The galaxy needs order, the hive mind insisted. Without the council there will be chaos. Kane shook his head. The galaxy needs justice, not order imposed by fear. If species want to form alliances, trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, that's fine, but no more client races, no more forced membership, no more erasing civilizations that won't submit. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing, we're building a memorial here on this station for Sarah Chen and the 23 civilizations you erased, so no one forgets what happens when power becomes tyranny. As Kane walked out of the council chamber, Commander Park fell in to step beside him. Sir, we're getting reports from across the galaxy. Client races are declaring independence. Some are asking for Earth's protection. Tell them we'll help defend against aggression, but we won't rule them. We didn't fight this war to become the next council. What did we fight for, sir? Kane thought of Sarah, of the 12 people who died with her, of his grandchildren back on Earth. We fought so that no one ever makes the mistake of thinking peace is weakness. 3 months after the first shot was fired, the war was over. The Ghost Fleet had accomplished what seemed impossible: the complete dismantling of a 20,000-year-old galactic power in 90 days. Historians would call it the shortest, most decisive war in known galactic history. Now came the harder part. Justice. Admiral Kine stood in the converted council chamber on Nexus Prime. The circular room where Sarah Chen had been sentenced to death was now a courtroom where council leaders once sat in judgment. International judges from Earth now presided where aliens once cheered executions. A gallery filled with survivors from client races watched silently. The tribunals had been running for 2 weeks. Every major council leader faced charges. The proceedings were broadcast to every inhabited world. In the sector, Kane insisted on transparency. The galaxy needed to see justice done properly. Today's defendant was the Vrax Emperor himself. He sat in a containment field diminished without his palace and power. Prosecutors presented evidence, recordings of council meetings where genocide was discussed casually, orders to erase entire civilizations. Sarah's final transmission showing the execution order. The Imperator's defense argued he was following traditions that predated human civilization. The council maintained peace. His lawyer insisted sometimes harsh measures were necessary. The lead prosecutor, a severe woman named Judge Martinez, responded coldly. 23 civilizations erased. Billions of lives ended. The defendant himself admitted these were prunings of species deemed too dangerous. This court does not recognize genocide as a legitimate tool of governance. The trial lasted 3 days. The evidence was overwhelming. When the verdict came, even the emperor seemed relieved. It was over on all charges of genocide crimes against sapient species and murder of diplomats guilty. Judge Martinez read. Sentence, life imprisonment in isolation, to be served in a secured facility on a neutral world. The defendant will have access to historical records so he may understand the full weight of his crimes. No possibility of parole. Similar verdicts followed for other council leaders, not execution. Kane had been firm about that. Humanity would show the galaxy there was another way. But the punishments were severe. Those responsible would spend their remaining lives thinking about what they'd done. Commander Park found Kane standing at the memorial after one of the trials. A massive structure of blackstone now stood in Nexus Prime Central Plaza, 24. Names were carved into it, Sarah Chen and her team, plus the names of the 23 erased civilizations. The Hivemind Collective was sentenced. Today, Park said, the court ordered them dispersed. Each individual organism will be placed on different worlds, forced to develop independent consciousness. They'll never think as one again. Kane nodded. It was a punishment that fit the crime the hive mind had erased. Individual civilizations, now its own collective consciousness was being erased. How many tribunals are left? 47. More mid-level council officials, military commanders who committed atrocities should be complete in another month. In the client races, how are they managing independence? Park pulled up a data pad. Mixed results. Some are thriving. The Tarvek established a democracy and are already reaching out to neighbors for trade. The Zilnauth restructured their entire society, thanking us for liberation. Others are struggling with internal conflicts now. That council authority is gone. 3 species are in civil wars. Can we help? Our diplomatic corps is offering mediation services. No military intervention unless they request it, and it's to stop genuine atrocities. We're being careful not to become the new council. Kane appreciated that. The line between protector and tyrant was thin. What about the former council worlds themselves? The Vra home world is in chaos. Their entire society was built around military service and council authority. Now both are gone. There's rioting in major cities. Some VRs are calling for restoration of the Imperator. Others want democracy. Send humanitarian aid, but make it clear they choose their own government. We don't pick sides in internal politics. They stood in silence for a moment, looking at Sarah's name on the memorial. Kane thought about how different things might have been if the council had just accepted Earth's offer of partnership. All this death, all this destruction, because of arrogance and fear. Admiral Park said quietly, what you said in the chamber about not becoming the next council, are you sure we're not? We defeated them. We hold most of the military power in this sector. Species are looking to us for protection. How is that different? Kane had wrestled with that question every day. The difference is choice. The council forced species to join. We're letting them choose. They want our protection, fine, but we don't control their governments or make their laws. They want to be independent also. Fine, we don't punish species for refusing us, and if someone threatens them, then we defend them if they ask. But we don't demand resources or troops. In return, We help because it's right, not because we want to build an empire. Kane looked at his exo. That's the test, Park, the moment we start demanding obedience instead of offering help, we've become what we destroyed. A junior officer approached. Saluting, Admiral Secretary General. Walsh is on the comm for you, secure channel. Kane followed him to a private chamber. Walsh's face appeared on the screen, looking exhausted but satisfied. Admiral, the UN General Assembly voted this morning. Final tally 192 in favor, 3 abstentions, 0 against. Earth is officially establishing the Free Species Alliance. What are the terms? Any species can join, no forced membership, no tribute or resources required. We provide mutual defense and trade networks. Each species retains complete sovereignty. Members can leave whenever they want, no penalties. Walsh smiled. We're calling it what it is. Voluntary cooperation instead of forced order. How many species are interested? 37 have already applied for membership. More are considering. Even some of the former council species want in once they establish legitimate governments. Kane felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. What about the Ghost Fleet? That's why I'm calling. The Assembly wants to know your recommendation. Do we bring the fleet home, keep it deployed, or something else? Kane had thought about this. Keep half deployed, rotating crews every 6 months. The galaxy just watched us dismantle the council. Some species are grateful, others are terrified. We need to be visible, ready but not threatening. Show we're serious about protecting the peace without imposing it. And the other half, bring them home. Stand them down but keep them maintained. The council isn't the only threat in the galaxy. We got lucky this time. They weren't prepared for our style of warfare. Next time we might not be so lucky. Walsh nodded slowly. You're thinking long term. I'm thinking Sarah's team died because the council thought humans were weak. I want to make sure no one ever makes that mistake again, but I also don't want to become what we thought. Walking that line will be hard. Everything worth doing is hard, Kane said. What's the status on Earth? Celebrations have died down. People are proud but also processing what happened. We went from first contact to galactic war in 3 years. There's some debate about whether we were too aggressive. Kane's expression hardened. They executed our diplomats on live broadcast. We responded with exactly the force necessary to ensure it never happens again. Anyone who thinks we were too aggressive didn't watch Sarah die. I agree, Admiral, but it's healthy that we're debating it. It means we're not blindly following military authority. Democracy is messy. They discussed logistics for another 20 minutes before signing off. Kane returned to the memorial where a small crowd had gathered. Former client race citizens. Mostly. Some left flowers, others just stood and looked at the names. An elderly Tarvek approached Kane. The species was vaguely reptilian with iridescent scales. You are Admiral Kane. I am. My home world was saved because of what you did. The council would have erased us next. We asked too many questions. As the Tarvek touched the memorial, thank you for remembering that lost ones. Thank you for making sure we won't be forgotten too. Kane didn't know what to say. He settled for what will your people do now? We will live. We will grow. We will make sure our children know what freedom cost. The Tarvek looked at Kane with large, wise eyes. And we will remember that Earth asked for peace first and only chose war. When peace was murdered, after they Tarvek left, Park rejoined Kane, sir. The rotation schedule is ready. Your replacement commander arrives next week. Your shuttle home leaves in 3 days. Good, I miss Earth, I miss my grandchildren. Kane took one last look at the memorial. Before I go, I want to make one more broadcast. The next day, Admiral Kane stood before cameras in the Nexus Prime communication center. His message would reach every inhabited world in the sector. I am Fleet Admiral Marcus Ka of Earth. 3 months ago, the Galactic Council executed Ambassador Sarah Chen for the crime of standing up for her species. Today, the Council no longer exists. Its leaders face justice. Its client races are free. Its military capability is dismantled. I want to be clear about what Earth stands for. We didn't